All right, everyone. We start off today, of course, with foreign policy news here with what Netanyahu said the other day with regards to Hezbollah. He's pissed at Hezbollah, which is understandable, I suppose, considering that they effectively are an auxiliary of Hamas and they're much more well-organized and well-equipped, too. He's vowed to turn Beirut into Gaza. That is his own statement if Hezbollah continues to antagonize the Israelis. You're now looking at the very real possibility of a regional war. If before it was a possibility, now it might be a probability that Israel is going to haul off and invade Lebanon or something like that. I don't know if they have enough manpower to canvass Gaza and Lebanon at the same time. And I believe that there are internationally brokered agreements that would be breached by that. Of course, they could say, Hezbollah has effectively declared war because they keep firing missiles at us and attacking targets. U.S. forces have been attacked all over the region as well. The area is beginning to implode. Netanyahu's latest plan is effectively to underwhelm all of the Gaza Strip entirely and turn it all into a brackish morass by pumping seawater into the enormous tunnel network that Hamas has built for decades and decades. Basically, imagine the pipe dream of every young boy who really likes digging around in the sand and like they're on the beach and they want to dig a hole to China or something like that, like in a literal sense. Imagine their pipe dream of having a tunnel complex that spans for miles and miles. And like you could easily get lost down there. It's like, I think it's bigger than the Paris catacombs by far. It's basically under the whole of the Gaza Strip. It connects all the urban areas. They're all interconnected. It'll take months to fill the tunnel system, apparently. That's by Israel's estimation. Now he's threatening to do this to Beirut. Of course, they're not going to be pumping Beirut full of seawater. But Jesus, if you end up in a hot war with Hezbollah and Hamas at the same time, I don't know if the IDF can take that strain. Also, if they were to haul off and cross the border to any significant degree, you're risking Syria getting involved. Syria then risks itself because there's still effectively end-stage civil war fighting going on there. You risk Iran getting involved. You risk the Jordanians. The king of Jordan warned about Israel's response in an op-ed. It was on RCP actually a few weeks ago. Jordan could get involved. Egypt might sour on the whole arrangement. Now, apparently, there's some possible speculative concept that the Palestinians in Gaza, since, Gaza won't exist anymore, are going to be relocated to Cyprus or to parts of Turkey that currently hold a bunch of Kurdistanis. I guess the idea is, they're not going to be aligned with the Kurds, per se. They'll be more aligned with Erdogan's government, so maybe Erdogan could use a couple million extra fighters. Most of them are women and children, but you get a few 100,000 extra forces in the mix, and maybe you can suppress some of the PKK rebels or something like that. And the whole situation is fucked up beyond recall at this point. It's something that I'm incapable of explaining, the confusion with regards to the messaging of the Israeli government. Part of it may be a shadow strategy. Let me explain. On one hand, it could be that they're serious. Netanyahu is saying, look, if you keep antagonizing us, we're going to go to war with another country and we're going to flatten you, which they have the military capability to do. Not necessarily for occupation, but certainly airstrike related. They could really destroy a lot of Hezbollah fighters. Kill a lot of civilians in the process, but it is possible physically for them to do so. On the other hand, we could look at this as a miniature madman strategy. And that's what I'm hoping that it is. I'm hoping that this is effectively similar to what we're all hoping the Samson option boils down to, which is ambiguity for ambiguity's sake, basically leave us alone, otherwise we press the button. Like a mutually assured destruction thing, like a spy versus spy sort of propaganda tactic. The hope is that he's effectively just trying to get Hezbollah to back down and doesn't expect them to go further, and therefore there won't be any larger regional conflict. Because an unassailable number of people would die in such a conflict. This area of the world has been a flashpoint for thousands of years. It's densely populated. Population centers are densely concentrated. In the outlands, of course, you have farms, olives and shit, vineyards. and has also a lot of interesting archaeological remains that don't do well when you bomb them. What happens if Hezbollah or Hamas or some group like that decides to take up residence in a 2,000-year-old temple and say, hey, yeah, we're just going to fire from here, and we're hoping that the response will be more muted because, they don't want to destroy the UNESCO site or something like that. It could happen. The IDF could do the same. The indiscriminate bombing campaign that's going on right now on both sides of the border, Hamas does not care who its rockets hit. They don't care if it's a civilian, an IDF member. They don't care if it's a private home, a business, a military installation, the wall, or anything else. They don't give a shit what they hit. They're completely indiscriminate. Israel is being more or less indiscriminate. They're trying to target Hamas, but they're even self-admitting that it's a 2-for-1 civilian casualty count. A wider war, extending to Beirut would be a really big problem. It would certainly be the largest conflict since the 1960s that's broken out in that region. Less the war in Iraq, of course, that's sort of on the other side of the Middle East. It's in the middle of the Middle East as opposed to on the edge of the Middle East. We're looking at the eve of destruction, I suppose. You remember that song? I can't remember who sang it. I think the Turtles did a version of it. Can't remember who did the original. Was it the Turtles or was it that other dude with the raspy voice that sounded a little bit like Bob Dylan with emphysema? Not 100% sure. But Netanyahu's comments, my hope is that this is a bluff. Basically, hey, we've got nukes and shit. Leave us alone. I hope it's an extension of the Samson option. And when that's the best that you can hope for, you know that you've got a few fucking problems, by the way. This war will probably drag on for an extended period of time, point number one. Point number two, at any given time, could implode. That is, it's no longer Israel has invaded Gaza. It's 5 or 6 nations are in a state of war against one another. I mean, I could wake up tomorrow and find that Syria has declared war on Israel and is moving tanks into position. I could wake up tomorrow and find that Iran has gotten involved. The problem for me, because I don't live in that region, and even if Israel nuked everyone in the region, it wouldn't directly impact me. It'd fuck the world economy sideways, but I know how to grow food, so I'd probably get by. My big problem, beyond the civilian casualties, which would mount in a major engagement, is do I trust the United States to have a sane foreign policy towards what happens if that occurs? We've already got a dumbass foreign policy with regards to what's already happening just with Gaza having been invaded, with Israel stating the intent to annex an area of land that they intend to effectively crater with sinkholes using seawater. That's nuts, actually. It's achievable. It does deal with Hamas. Their tunnel network becomes useless. It makes it easier to smoke them out, I suppose, but you've destroyed any economic activity in the region for a good long time as that brackish water seeps out into the surrounding soils and, again, creates sinkholes and all manner of nasty things like that. Israel's already doing that. U.S. foreign policy is basically bipolar. It's like Joe Biden is schizo or something like that. He oscillates back and forth between saying we regard Israel as our greatest ally, here's more money, and we support you in whatever you do. But then at the same time, we'll pen an op-ed or make a speech in which he urges restraint. Well, there's no restraint being shown. Netanyahu just vowed to turn Beirut into another Gaza and effectively threatening to annex Lebanon or at least occupy it or something like that or bomb it to shit if Hezbollah continues, which it can be counted on to continue as long as Israel is in Gaza. That's nuts. You're risking a major regional conflict that could take millions of lives, and people are being very flippant about it and acting like it's no big deal. I mean, they talk about it, they act like it's important, but they don't realize how important it is. That's about all. Peace out.